Good morning, Covington County. Welcome to Good News Covington County with Brother John, and today it's Cousin Tom and Cousin Jared. We're out here, already been all over the county this morning doing things and seeing people and making friends in Opp, Alabama and throughout this area. Boy, we're lucky to be in such a great place, aren't we? I want to start out by telling you a good story, a good news story. We were in Opp early this morning at an institution over there, and it wasn't the jail. I was doing a little business over there for a few minutes, and I'm not going to name the business. They're great people. But when I walked in, there was a lady sitting on the sidewalk. And when I walked out, after doing my business, it didn't take long, she had fallen out and I guess passed out or something on the pavement there. And there was another lady there. We helped her get up, and I went inside and asked the people at the place I was at to call an ambulance there for the lady. And let me tell you something about the people in Ops Fire Rescue. Corey Sperling, your fire chief, one of the policemen, I didn't get his name, and a number of EMTs were there where we were at within 3.5 minutes of the time that the telephone rang. Now, folks, that's excellent response time. I don't know what y'all are used to in Opp. I don't know what it's timed by or anything else, but my experience today was if I had a problem, I'd be happy to have the Opp Fire Department calling on me. They had EMTs there, and they took care of that lady as well as they could. They got her into an ambulance and got her back to the hospital, and it was just a great thing to see people in public service work like that to help you. And my hat's off to Corey Sperling and the rest of the people in the Opp police and fire community. They showed me their stuff today, and their stuff smells good. Be proud of that. Corey, thanks for the time that you gave me today. We're going to be doing some other projects with Corey and the Opp and the Andalusia Fire Departments in the future. Those guys are unsung heroes, and we want you to know a little bit more about them and why they do what they do, and some of the things that you can do for yourself that are transportable skills that those people can give you to make your life and the lives of those around you better and safer. Now, that said, I'm going to take a little bit change, a switch or change in the road, and I want us to talk about a group of people that are over at the Fleta School. Now, y'all know where Fleta is. It's almost in the middle of nowhere, where somebody would say, but they've got an outstanding program over there in science and math. And they had a group of 7th graders in Fleta that have done something incredible. They scored a perfect score on the Globe Southeast Regional Science Symposium held at the University of North Carolina. Now, this is a juried test where they go in and they create a science project, and and I'm going to read some to you about it. But these little 7th grade girls, and their names are Lexi Bush, Caitlin Wilson, Whitney Tuberville, and Emily Butts, worked on this hypothesis, and they developed it. They have a great teacher over there. They had to go all the way up to North Carolina, and the story in the Andalusia Star News, which is written by Christopher Smith, I'm not going to get into all that because it was because Christopher wrote such a good story, but it's a cute, sweet story about these little girls, these young ladies, and their first trip out of this area to a place like Raleigh, the Raleigh, North Carolina area, the educational triangle up in North Carolina where Duke, North Carolina State, and University of North Carolina are located. Emily Bush, I'm quoting her here, said, "We decided to change our project because it would be easier on us. We decided to test lake soil, pond soil, and regular land soil to see what the pH levels would be in them." Now, that's acidity levels of the soil. The group's hypothesis stated that the pond soil would be the most acidic, and they were correct. "I'm really glad that the data was correct," said Tuberville. "It means that we did our research right. It means that and this is what it's not said, it means that their hypothesis was correct. The assumptions they made were correct. And when they had to prove it, they proved it. Now, the great thing about it was they made a perfect score. Now, this means that there were a number of judges that judged what they were doing for their hypothesis, their method, and their results. And to make that work, they had to get a perfect score from all of the judges involved. And one of the judges was a doggone astronaut. You think those people aren't on top of your science, then you've got another thing coming. These young ladies from the Fleta School knocked the ball out of the park. They did a great job. And the teacher down there did a great job and deserves a great deal of credit too. To get a perfect score, the groups had to earn 4 stars from the judges. The group from Fleta was the youngest group to earn the 4 stars of all the people there. My salute is to the Fleta School Science and Math Department. What a wonderful job they did. And what wonderful young scholars we have here in Covington County that can possibly go off and make a difference in the world, all because there was a teacher down there that got them interested in science and made science relative, not just interesting to them. Now we're going to stop for a minute. We'll be back after these commercials. Welcome back to Good News Covington County with Brother John, Cousin Jared, Cousin Tom. I tell you what, it's so much fun doing this show. I hope I'm not boring you folks, because I really enjoy the people I work with and the things that I get to do here. And we're going to do more and more things here in the community and more things with you and for you as we go forward on this project. Now, we've been working through some bugs that we had, and we're getting better, but we're not there. But we're about ready to go into the community and see what we can do to help you folks, and honestly see if you folks can help us a little bit too. Y'all be prepared for this. We think we've got going to have a very good product that we can share with you, but we want you to participate with us on every level that we can, because we're only as successful as we are with our mission to help you. Now, here's some other great local news. It's about a young man named Will Jones, who is from Andalusia, and he's done an exceptionally good job in college. In fact, he's over at SMU, and he has been picked as a Fulbright Scholar. Now, the Fulbright Scholarship is a program run by the United States Department of State, and the goal of that is to increase mutual peace and understanding throughout the world and establish a peaceful and friendly relationship between the people of the United States and 140 other countries. The program currently awards only 1,900 grants annually. So that means that Mr. Jones is an exceptional young man just based on the numbers. Will Jones is majoring in German at German and Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Let me tell you, I've lived in Texas, and Southern Methodist University out there is viewed like Vanderbilt or Sewanee. It is one of the better academic institutions that you can go to. So he's achieved a lot just by doing well at Southern Methodist. And I'm going to quote him now from the paper, Andalusia Star News, from an article written by Christopher Smith, and it's a great article. Christopher does a good job. With my major in German, I went to Germany my sophomore year and was told about the program, Jones said. I knew that I wanted to spend time in Germany after I graduated from college so I could solidify the language. So this just all fell into place. And I'll tell you this, I've had friends who have degrees in Spanish and other languages, and every one of them will tell you, if you just use the academic, what they've taught you in academia, and then you go to a foreign country, you're lost. So he's got a great opportunity to become extremely conversant in German. While he's over there, Jones will be teaching English at a school in the state of Northern Rhine-Westphalia, which is in the northwestern part of Germany. It's a beautiful country. He has to put in 20 hours of teaching in the school every week. So the test of but the rest of the time they want him to be involved with doing some other creative programs in the community. He's going to take some classes in German history, which is, I think, wonderful, and that will help him do an awful lot later in life. But he wants to set up a dance and theater group in the community, or at least affiliate with one that's there. Here are Jones's long-term goals after college. They're to live in Germany for a little while and then move to Los Angeles and pursue a career in acting. Jones said that if acting does not work out, he'd like to try to get in politics. Along with being named a Fulbright scholar, Jones has been awarded the M Award, and that's the highest recognition a student can get at Southern Methodist University. The M Award honorees have to inspire others, and they give their time and their talents to the university and the university community unselfishly in order to make the university and the world a better place. Sounds like that he's got it all figured out. Our next story is based on what happened at the Legislative Council. I'm trying to think of the word, but it's a meeting that they have with Mike Jones and Jimmy Holly several times a year. We're going to have one in Covington County next week on Thursday. But our legislators, our state senator and our state representative to the House of Representatives come and speak to the communities several times during the year. Now, they don't have to do this, but I think it's really important that we recognize that we've got representatives both in the Senate and in the House that care enough about us that they're not autocratic. They want to keep us involved, and they want to help keep the community informed about what's going on. Now, Jimmy Holly is in the Senate, and he does a good job doing what he can in the Senate. And Mike Jones, our young representative to the House, has done a great job up there. And Mike has been a part of the group that has spearheaded the research and science that they've used to try to put together a program for us to update the prison systems here in the state of Alabama. I mean, Mike's given a ton of time on it. I'd say he's an expert in prison maintenance, prison construction, and those kind of things. And he's done it to serve all of us, not just to keep people in jail, but to serve all of us, including, and so is Jimmy, including the people that work in the correction system, the correctees themselves, and all of us that are one way or time or other are protected by folks that work in that prison system. And we're going to talk about that in a little more detail after this commercial break. Welcome back to Good News Covington County with Brother John and Cousin Tom and Cousin Jared. When I left, we were just beginning to talk about the town hall meeting that Jimmy Holly and Mike Jones had over in Opp just the other day. I think it was yesterday. And there was a great article written by Michelle Gerlach who covers an awful lot of this information, this political information for the Andalusia Star News, and does a fantastic job. She's not just a good reporter, she's a good writer. And she was talking about, she writes this article about what Mike Jones, whose office is right across the square from us, and Jimmy Holly, who lives in Elba's, challenges have been as they've moved forward. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that the state of Alabama's prison system is kind of old and antiquated. There's some people out there that may say, well, you know, they committed a crime and ought to be rough. Folks, that can't be. We've got to treat everybody as if they were a human being. And the standard for that is not set in the state of Alabama. It's often set by the Supreme Court of the United States. And the standard for Alabama has been low for a long time. And the state of Alabama, being a poor state, has tried to hang on as long as they can, because they didn't have the money to help to keep our prison system running. Our prison system now is so old and antiquated that there are a lot of buildings, and this is a perfect example, they use it in the story, that they've got old buildings that have concrete floors with 8-inch sewer lines under them. That's a clay 8-inch sewer line, and those lines have collapsed. If they went back to repair that facility, it would cost them more to bring the facility up to code than it would be to build a new facility and tear down the old one. That's the kind of a conundrum that the people in the Senate have been dealing with. They've got some tough choices, and right now, quite honestly, because of the lawsuits and other things that are going on out there, they got a tough choice. They either got to build new prisons or they got to let inmates out. Now, California is an example of where they chose to let the inmates out. They turned out a lot of people that were in prison for what they call misdemeanors, changed what a felony was, and they got their prison populations down, and guess what? A lot of their crime rates went up. That's unfortunate. But they've got to either build new prisons or they've got to let people out. And that's the heavy burden that's on Jimmy Hawley and Mike Jones's shoulders as they talk to the city of Opp. It drew several dozen people that were there. And Hawley explained this. The legislature has no choice other than increasing the prison system's funding in its general fund budget. Now, Jones and Hawley, who represent all of Covington County and parts of surrounding counties in the legislature, were asked what more has to be done before that judge is satisfied. And here's what Hawley said. Hawley explained that the lawsuits are against the state in federal court, and they're challenging health care for inmates, mental health care for inmates, and for personnel as well. Remember, this affects the people that work in the correction system as well. Quote Hawley again, "Right now I have to admit the federal courts have been more than lenient with Alabama. They have bent over backwards to say, let us help you. I thought we would be slam dunked in receiverships and the prisons would be taken over. This is a longer drawn out procedure." Now, what I want you to understand about that is what he just said is that if they want to, they can take over the prison system, build the prisons that they say we need, and send us, the taxpayers, a bill. And that's what Jimmy Hawley and Mike Jones are trying to avoid. Both Hawley and Jones agreed that new facilities are a must. We either have to do that or let other people out on pardon, said Hawley. Pardon and paroles would have to do an evaluation for that. Now, Jones said at some point we cannot avoid construction. We've got places where we can't lock doors. Think about that, places where we can't lock doors in prisons because there are no parts available to fix the locks. When you can't lock doors in the prison, that's a problem, says Jones. Hey, that's an understatement. And this is the kind of thing that these men in Montgomery have been trying to work for and against. Jones states that the state's prisons are staffed at approximately 45% of the employment level needed. Now that means if they thought that it took 100 people to man a prison 24/7, they've only got 45 people to do the job with. They're that understaffed and underfunded. Any business works at 55% inefficiency. I don't know, but they're doing a heck of a job if they do. Jones and Hawley also heard concerns from their representatives about mental health systems and the problems and the need for truancy officers in schools. I think personally truancy officers properly used and working properly can help prevent a lot of prison problems later on. Mayor Becky Brackey expressed the need for a new gasoline tax dedicated to improving infrastructure and Medicare reforms. I'm on Medicare, I can tell you. They got to do something. It's killing people on Medicare right now. And if you're on Medicare, I bet you know that too. Well, folks, we've come to the end of this segment. We'll be back shortly. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to Good News Covington County, and we're sure glad to have you back here today. I want to talk about a story we did yesterday. We talked about local merchants, local being Andalusian, Covington County, and their response to the people that make the Yeti coolers withdrawing their discounts from the NRA. Folks, the Andalusia Star News got right on top of this story, and it's a lot bigger story than you think it is. Yesterday evening, when I was at home doing my research for this show today, I got to looking around. Did you realize that this story has created a furor everywhere, or at least interest, maybe not a furor, everywhere from the people at the New York Times looking at it to the people at Breitbart.com making, and Blabberbuzz having stories about Yeti and what it's done to them. I'm not saying they stubbed their toe. I'm not saying anything, but I think it's going to be a wake-up call for them and a lot of other people that do public relations work, because it has certainly exploded in their faces. And today on Facebook, Anthony King, one of the owners out at Fletcher's here, and a smart young'un, posted on Facebook the card with the name of the Yeti representative from this area. And under the card, Anthony had written something, this is not a direct quote, but something like this: "Just threw this guy out of my store today." And that was all that was said. By 7:45 or 8 o'clock this morning, there were a number of responses on Facebook to Anthony's post, and they were all backing Anthony and their position at Fletcher's of taking Yeti and getting them out of the store and taking the proceeds and giving them to the NRA. Folks, just goes to show you, our little local stories are part of bigger stories all the time. Andalusia Star News does a good job of covering it. I want to give them a hats off for getting on the front side of that story and reporting what happened here in Covington County. But what we think of as a local story has now become a national story for all of us. Now, I just thought that was an interesting aside for all of us. In other news, we now have a new Secretary of State. He's Mike Pompeo, and there was an article in the Andalusia Star News, again written by Michelle Gerlach, and in this, she reports on how our senators voted in the confirmation of Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo is one of President Trump's nominees for this position. He's been Homeland Security and other things. President Trump trusts him apparently implicitly. Both Senator Richard Shelby and U.S. Senator Doug Jones, one Republican and one Democrat, voted Thursday to confirm Mike Pompeo to be the next U.S. Secretary of State. President Trump nominated Pompeo to the cabinet position last month. Prior to confirmation of his Secretary of State, and he was sworn in yesterday, Pompeo served as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. In a conference call with Alabama reporters yesterday, just before the vote, Jones indicated that he would support Pompeo's nomination. It passed like on a 52 to 47 vote, with some Democrats crossing the line to vote with the Republicans. But I would remind you in the past that that usually the Secretary of State's almost a slam dunk in a much more collegial congressional atmosphere. I think that Hillary Clinton was nominated was recommended by a vote of 89 to 12, and John Kerry by 94 to 5 or something like that. Those are vague numbers in my mind, but it just goes to show you how non-collegial our representatives are in Washington. And quite honestly, I'm not going to take a slap at any one particular side. I'm going to take a slap at both of them for placing their political parties above the well-being of the United States. And I'm just kind of ashamed of a lot of those people up there. And apparently, based on what we saw at the Covington County meet and greet over an op, a lot of people are ashamed of some of those folks as well, because there wasn't a pleasant thing said about our existing representative. And I hate that because we need to understand that politics as usual ain't politics as usual. And what happens there affects each and every one of us. So it's important that you inform yourselves about what's going on politically. And that's why we tell you the things about the Mike Jones and Jimmy Holly story. That's important to you. That's why we tell you news about Mike Pompeo. That's important because that's your tax dollars and they represent your country. And so it's very, very important that you stay informed about that so that when the opportunity comes to make your contribution, which is taxes and voting, that you can make an informed decision. I'm not going to sit up here and try to influence anybody to vote one way or the other. I have my own opinions and I'm entitled to them, and you should have your own opinions and you're entitled to them, and you should be able to support your opinions. Now, I just think that's being a responsible United States citizen, and I hope that we all are. Now, we're about to close this segment in just a minute, but we want you to stay tuned for more. Thank you. Welcome back to Good News, Covington County. News of local interest, and we're just happy to be here with you today. We want to start now with an article from the Andalusia Star News written by Christopher Smith. And Christopher's writing a story about something that's very near to my heart, and that's about the Megan Kelly Smiles Foundation here in Covington County. Megan Kelly was a beautiful young lady here in Covington County that died a couple of years ago after a really, and when I say valiant, I mean a valiant struggle against an unusual form of cancer. The Kelly family's done what I think has been an outstanding job of taking Megan's journey, taking the hardship that they all had to face and the hard break that they had to face as they eventually lost this precious child to cancer, and trying to make lemonade out of a lemon. And I'm thankful that people have that kind of attitude. I'm thankful that our good Lord in heaven gave us the opportunity to make that kind of decision when things occur in our lives, whether we can make it bad or good. Rick Cartwright, Gordy Cartwright's father's done the same thing, and maybe in a different way to help the community based on what happened to their children. The Megan Kelly Smiles Foundation has teamed up with Be the Match, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping every patient get a life-saving transplant if possible. And that's dependent on a couple of things. One, finding a match is dependent upon having somebody to match to for a transplant. That's just a numbers game, folks. If you're a match and they've got you in the registry, somebody comes up that needs a kidney or a part of a liver or something like that, maybe even a lung transplant. All of those things are available only if there are people that match tissue or close to tissue. It's sad to say that oftentimes there are people that matching does not work for, even in their own family. The match group, Be the Match, is what they do is they go out and they ask people to give a sample of their DNA so that they can build this huge matching library over here. So when people need a transplant, blood marrow or whatever, bone marrow, whatever, that they know that there's somebody out there that they can go to. Now that requires a big person. That requires us to be big people, to be able to give a part of ourselves to something like that. You know, I'm a 67, so I'm not a candidate for transplant. My eyes have seen too much. My lungs have breathed too much. My brain has seen some things that would make it transplantable anyway. But there are plenty of us that are under the age of 61 that have an opportunity to share a gift of our lives with other people, a gift that would allow them to share a longer life with the people that love them, what a miracle it would have been for for Megan to have had somebody like that was a proper match to possibly ward off the cancer. What a miracle it would have been for Gordy Cartwright to have somebody that could have made that difference in their life. In this particular situation, I don't want to sound all somber and terrible, but this is a serious thing. Potential donors agree that they will donate to anyone that they match, and they will remain on the registry until they're 61. Ms. Kelly, Megan's mother, noted that nothing will happen unless the person is a match. Then the donation process will begin. Since 1987, Be the Match has facilitated more than 85,000 transplants, with 6,100 of those transplants occurring in 2017 alone. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. We're heading into the final stretch here on Friday afternoon. Just got this and one more segment to go. And most of that's going to be sports. But one thing that I want to finish up with is that we had a little technical difficulty with our presentation or our story on Smiles for Megan. Just know this, there's a worthy cause there, and this opportunity to go and register for donations for transplants is a golden opportunity for each one of us. Have the courage to do that. Be something bigger than you are. Take an opportunity to give something of yourself to someone else. It's a great cause. Now on to a little bit other news and on to some sports as well. City of Andalusia Utilities Department Thursday set a bunch of new lights down here on South 3 Notch Street. Now, I know that y'all know where South 3 Notch is, and you know that they've been going through an awful lot down there, widening it, making the entrances to all the houses and businesses better. It's a beautiful, scenic place. They now have sidewalks on both sides of the street for most of the distance, from up here at the square to Andalusia Health out there. What a wonderful thing they've done for us. What an opportunity they've given for people even in the hospital. It's a great thing that they've done. And you know, they're putting the finishing touches on that project now. And one of the finishing touches has been the new lights that they've erected down here on South 3 Notch Street. They are beautiful. They're picturesque. They look a lot like the lights that we've got up here on the square. They provide extra safety for the people that want to walk at night, but they make Andalusia even more scenic and beautiful. And our hats off to the city of Andalusia and the people that have been involved in this project as it comes to an end for doing another good thing for the city. We're so thankful for that. And I'm thankful for all the people that have been so patient through it all as well. It's a great thing, Andalusia. We're lucky to live here. Now on to a little bit of sports news locally, and I think it's a lot to be proud of. Ops baseball team, men's baseball team, has done an extremely good job this year. They played well. They played like Andalusia's baseball team, extremely well. They're in the Class 3A teams playoff for the state this year. That's a siren on the square, but none of us are in trouble. That's just background music for you folks. The second round of the Class 3A playoffs carries heavy implications for the outcome of the state title, as the number 1 Mobile Christian Leopards travel to Opp today, Friday, to take on the number 2 ranked Bobcats. The Leopards are 21-7 and the Bobcats are 21-6. Pretty competitive teams. There are 16 teams left in the playoffs at this point, according to Coach Mike Cassidy. There are 8 of those teams from the northern part of the state, and 8 of them are from the southern part of the state. It goes without saying, and I think it is said though by Mike Cassidy, that any of the teams that Opp will play or Andalusia will play from this point on are good teams, or they wouldn't be where they're at. Opp just barely missed the playoffs last year and look like a team to beat this year. They've got a group of 8 seniors that have played together since they've been 5 years old in T-ball. The last 2 weeks, according to Coach Cassidy, they've had great practices and they're doing real well. Ops started the season strong and continued to wreak havoc on their opposing teams throughout the season. The Bobcats only lost 2 games to Class 3A or below teams. Great. I mean, you know, if you lose a game to Andalusia and they're a class above you, there's no shame in that. These kids over in Op have played a great season, and I'm really proud for them, and I hope y'all are. I want to quote, and this is an article, a really good article by Josh Dutton, who does a great job with sports for the Andalusia Star-News. I want to quote Coach Cassidy on something. I know Andalusia's playing in Montgomery today, and the first thing that I want to do is to wish them and Coach Tyler Dent the best of luck. For those fans that can't make the trip to Trinity, and I would include people in Andalusia, I'd like to invite you to come over here to Op to watch Op play. It's going to be a big game with number 1 and number 2 teams facing off in the state. We should have a big crowd, and I would encourage everyone to come out and support those kids. Everyone, and I think that includes Andalusia, Florella, Strawn, and everyone else. Op and Mobile Christian will begin game 1 today at 4:30, and Op and game 2 is scheduled for 7 o'clock. If there's a third game, if they split those two and there's a third game, it'll be played Saturday morning. Now, folks, that's the end of this segment. We'll be back in just a minute with a little more sports news and the weather. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. We're glad to have you back here on this Friday evening. I want to continue the baseball news with a story again from Josh Dutton at the Andalusia Star-News, and it's about an Andalusia baseball player, Hogan Nichols. Hogan Nichols has been selected to the 2018 South All-Stars for this summer's North-South baseball game. Nichols has been the starting catcher for the Andalusia Bulldogs for, I believe, 3 years. Yeah, that's right. This season, Nichols has knocked the cover off the baseball for the Bulldogs. He's hit for an average of .451 with 3 home runs, 30 RBIs, and 37 hits. He's helped lead the Bulldogs to their second round of the state playoffs in Class 4A. By the way, that the 22nd annual All-Star event will be held in Montgomery at the Riverwalk Stadium. And that's just a great thing. If you got an opportunity to go see Andalusia today, go see them. I think they play at 4 and at 6:30 up in Montgomery as well. The other sports story that we have today is not about baseball. It's not about softball. It's about a sport that's growing in popularity, but one that a lot of us old timers don't think about, but I will tell you it has appeal for young people that you wouldn't believe, and that is soccer. Now, the Andalusia Bulldogs this year has a very young soccer team. They're only 9-4-1. That's respectable. They played 14 games. They're about 66%, and they're set for another deep run into the state playoffs in postseason this year. They'll be hosting Faith Academy here in Andalusia today for the first round of Class 4A, 5A state playoffs in soccer. According to Jarrett Williams, their head coach, they just have to keep playing like they've been playing the last few weeks. We have to play hard and play together and just keep building off what we've been doing in the past few weeks. They had a kind of a slow start, but once they got to playing together, they've done extremely well. They got a great bunch of kids down there. A lot of people don't realize that soccer in Andalusia is a co-ed sport. They've got young men and women out there playing together, and they play hard. You know, soccer's one of those games where you don't have timeouts. You get to play, and then you get to rest. These guys have been pretty relaxed all this week, and they're excited to go. Andalusia will play Faith Academy at 5 p.m. today at the Kiwanis Center. Big news in sports. You know, I made a comment about this yesterday but Andalusia and Opp have really had pretty doggone good athletics overall this year. I mean, they've gotten into playoffs in several different sports. That means we got good coaching and we've got good people playing and good community supporting those kids. Strawn has had their struggles this year, and so has Red Level, but they've had great kids come together and try to do some wonderful things together. Florella has exceeded all expectations for many of us. They've got a kid down there that's done so well in football and other events that he's a national scholar candidate. Wonderful, wonderful things that the sports have done. Now for weather. If you haven't already figured it out today, it's going to be mostly sunny. Our high is going to be near 76, real pleasant weather out there with winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, it's going to be mostly clear with a low around 52 degrees and a north wind about 5 miles per hour, becoming calmer as the night goes. On Saturday, we'll have a high near 81 with a light northwest wind increasing to about 5 to 10 miles per hour during the morning. Saturday night will be mostly clear with a low around 54. Northwest wind will be coming in here at about 5 miles per hour over Saturday night. What does Sunday hold? I don't know. We'll take a look. Well, folks, that's about all the news that we have here. But I want to ask you to do a couple of things. Think about your neighbor. Know that we appreciate you. And please, shop local. We'll talk to you again Monday. Thanks for your time.